It's a place the boys, the mother meets, the training school. They meet there for what they call milestone training. Occasion, one of the evenings, I went to the recreational center with one of my Nigerian friends to play billiards, to play snooker, in the evening after the day's class. While I was there, the white man in charge of that place, one of the that was obviously racist, and I was quite angry, and I also reacted in a way that showed my anger. The manager of the place had to come to intervene and calm me down, maybe because I threatened I was going to take it up with the school. In that place, also a friend I met there called Eric. He's from Rwanda, but he has been in the US for about 5 years there. I remember him tapping me on the shoulder and saying, "Brother, calm down." That's what an average black man faces in this country. 1 year later, in Lagos, I was to move an apartment, and one of my colleagues in the office told me that there was vacancy somewhere around these neighborhoods, that he would speak to the landlord if I could pick up that place. When I then went to inspect the place, the landlord, hearing my names, just said, "No, I don't give my houses to Igbo people." I also say I cannot even live in a house owned by someone like you. I did not negotiate, I did not beg, I walked away. 2 years later, when I was about to get married, I didn't take permission from my wife. So if I get into trouble, very soon, then we'll be, you and your committee will be meeting you. In Igbo land, when we want to marry, they show with a lot of stakeholders. So there are these very prominent stakeholders I had to meet from my in-laws. Both the man and the wife are professors, or we are professors. In fact, one of them was even a one-time minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, so you could imagine how important they were. So when I went there, in the course of trying to introduce myself, one of the problems they had is that I'm from Anambra State. I was disgusted. So I'm talking of Igbo now, right? They are from Imo State, why from Anambra State. I'm one of those emotional people. In fact, when I think you are stupid, even if I don't say it, you look at my face, you see it. So I had that kind of face. And as calmly as possible, I lectured them on how I wouldn't apologize for my existence. I remember the man telling me, "You are such a proud young man." I also remember the look on my wife's face that you know saying, "Are you sure I really know this man I want to marry?" After then, I've experienced so many of those examples. What situations where I got treated by either where I came from, what I believe in, maybe social status and all of that. But there has been a difference. I have grown, I wasn't no longer as naive. I have an understanding of how the world works. So it no longer makes me angry. I no longer even react. I can even completely ignore you. Right? Someone once said that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. So most times it's not about what happens to you, it's about what happens in you. Welcome to today's sermon. The topic is, what is that in thy hand? I prepare this with in mind that the projector will work. I'm not planning to read, and I still won't read for part of the effect of how I want this sermon to run. The text is from the book of Exodus chapter 4 verse 2. Let someone read. Exodus chapter 4 verse 2.
Exodus 4 verse 2. Read on.
So the Lord said to me, "What is that in your hand?" And he said, a rod.
Okay, if you are familiar with that passage, it was the encounter that Moses had with God while in the wilderness. Production. There are indeed little things that are completely out of your hands. There are things that you can't do anything about. You don't have any control over them. They are completely external. Most times, those are the things that get our attention. Those are the things we worry about on a regular basis. Most times we worry about the economy, worry about the government, especially this period, worry about the politicians and all their shenanigans, the wickedness of all the people around us. We worry about these whole lot of things that we cannot influence, how can we affect. But life will actually be more meaningful if we rather focus our energy on the things we can impact on directly while leaving the rest to God. Instead of wishing and hoping for a better economy, it may be easier to focus on working harder. It may be easier to focus on creating more income. It may be easier to focus on yourself to say, how can I survive irrespective of the state of the economy? Instead of wishing life would be easier and softer, we normally say we want a soft life. Why don't we focus on getting harder and stronger and more resilient in the face of whatever we meet? Wouldn't you rather focus on becoming better versions of ourselves, more forgiving, more understanding, instead of wishing that everybody around us will become different and change? He says, what is that in your hands? Is a reminder on taking out intact. What we still have left of the world, what the politicians, what the bad economy have not taken from us, what do we still have left, and how can we take good advantage of them? The things we have on our hand, the things we can influence, the things we rather focus on instead of all the external factors that we worry about. Someone once said, I think the man that wrote, he was actually in prison. I'm trying to remember his name. During the Second World War, he was incarcerated for a long time. He said something. He said that everything can be taken away from you, but no one can ever take away the freedom to choose your attitudes on how you respond to the events of life. Those are the things you have in your hand, the things you can control. Do you know what they are? We read the book of Exodus 4:2. But let me try to analyze that place a bit better. And the Lord said unto him, what is that in thy hands? Moses gave a very simple answer, straight to the point. The only thing I have in my hand is a rod, nothing, just a rod. Okay? And later on, you will come to see what God used Moses to do with just that word, that same rod. So many things, right? We'll come to see that later. Throughout the Bible, God had a wonderful habit of using whatever a person possessed, if only that person can yield it and commit it to God. David used just slingshots, catapult, right, and few stones to kill Goliath. Samson used a jawbone to slay 1,000 Philistines. Jesus used just a little basket of 5 loaves of bread and people. And Elijah used a jawbone and a son throughout the period of drought before the rains came. It will be worthwhile for us to examine our hands to see what we have in there. It doesn't need to be so grand, it doesn't need to be so majestic. But if you recognize it and you commit it to God, God can do a whole lot of miraculous things with it. Moses answered God's simple question when he asked, what is that in your hand? He said, a rod. Cast it on the ground. Sometimes the biggest, hardest part of us recognizing what we have is to cast it on the ground. So even bother to try to put it to use. And when Moses was able to cast this simple rod on the ground, many things happened. Impossible tasks got accomplished in the book of Exodus, if you read that. That rod turned into a snake. That same snake ate other snakes. That rod brought out water out of the rock. That rod turned water to blood. And many other things are probably not recorded in the Bible. So the question is, again, what is that in thy hands? And are you able to cast it to the ground? So let's take an inventory of what you still have left. What is not dependent on the economy? What is not dependent on the politicians? Especially now that the whole country is boiling. What in any way that cannot be taken away from you? The first thing, I really wish we are projecting this. I don't know why I'm feeling comfortable with it. The first question I ask here is this: do you still have yourself? Or have you lost yourself? Do you still have yourself? And what makes up you? Your virtues. In the book of 2 Peter chapter 1, 5 to 8, the Bible talks about the virtues. Say, to your faith you have virtue, to your virtue knowledge, temperance, patience, godliness, brotherly kindness, charity. Are you allowing the events of life to rob you out of your goodness? Are you now trying to become somebody that you are not because of the wickedness of the people around you, or because of unkindness of people around you, or because of living maybe, what's the word? Ingratitude. Anybody again, those are kept in the past. They came back to become my enemies and others. Have you lost yourself? Your virtues. Have you lost your virtues? What do you still have? Your gift and your talents. Are you maximizing the talent that God has given you? Are you planning to go to grave with those talents unutilized? Just like the man, the one talent man that went and buried his in the ground. Your sanity. It is actually possible to go crazy in this country. And I don't mean I mean literally, not figuratively. Are you making efforts in managing your mental health? Book of Ephesians 4:31 says, let all bitterness, all wrath, all anger, clamor, evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Now, even problems can drive you to create, to actually madness. I personally, I'm telling you a personal example. In the last few weeks, starting from the election time and all that, at the stage came, I was asking myself, maybe I can meet a doctor if my head is still correct. So if I'm not careful, I have to switch up from the news, I have to switch up from social media just to manage my mental health. You will listen to some people talk. Get away the hands, slap them. There are certain things you look at, you're like, is this person a human being? You need to manage your sanity. That is within your control. That is in your hands to manage. Your time and your opportunities. The Bible always talks about redeeming the time. The days are evil, making the best opportunity, best use of the time you have and the things you have around you. Something as its own you have in your hands. Instead of using it to watch TikTok videos and play on Instagram, people have used that same thing to drive the growth of their business. Sell their products and train themselves through the 1,000 available training courses on the internet. What some of us have only done with our mobile phone is just to have fun and be entertained. Your business, your job. The book of Proverbs 22:29 talks about diligence. It says, have you seen a man diligent in his work? He's going to stand before kings. Do you still want to remain just an average worker? Or do you rather focus on how to maximize your business, your job? Do you still have yourself? Take an inventory to see what you still have left, like I said earlier. There's a mountain that says, what you don't use, you lose. It's there, you have it, but you're not putting it to use. After time, you better don't use it anymore because you've lost it. You only need to practice wickedness a couple of times, and before you know it, you actually become a wicked person. If you're not even careful, you become a full-blown witch if you're not careful, right? You just tell yourself, no, I'm not wicked, but I need to show these people that nobody has monopoly of wickedness. Before you know it, you be a witch. Do not become a wicked person because of the hands you've been dealt with. Do not become an unkind person because people have not treated you nicely. Do not become a tribal bigot because of the gimmicks and the games the politicians are playing. You know, the recent thing of the whole Igbo days, Yoruba, was even my wife called my attention to it. There was a particular man who had been supporting this other Yoruba man. I don't know where the man is from, probably an Igbo man. Every week for weekly dialysis. Dialysis is what you do, what people do when they have kidney problem. Right? It's expensive to keep up with that. They have been supporting him with weekly dialysis. After listening on the whole nonsense about people who go out of Lagos, he said, okay, I didn't even realize that we are different tribes in this country. This man I've been supporting is a Yoruba man. I'm not doing it anymore. People started begging him, he cannot do it. And, you know, that sounds like nonsense excuse, but trust me, people have actually become who they are not because of the hands they have been dealt with. You still have yourself. You can lose anything in this life, but the world, there are people who have lost all the fortune they have, and with time they're able to build it up. You know why? Because whatever they had that made them create that fortune, they still have it, so they can do it again. The modern generation, the kind of play they had is different. You know, kids play with tablets and the rest. So, but during our time, there are other things they can do, including hunting lizard, right? What you will know if you ever hunted lizard is that a lizard, if you cut off its tail, can always what? Grow a new tail. A lizard can grow a tail. A tail can never grow a lizard. So don't lose yourself. Whatever it is, I will still have it. Do you still have your relationships? It is something that is on your hand you can focus on. Your spouse, husband, wife, your children, your parents, your siblings, your friends, your colleagues, your parents. I put here on how to be excellent wives, husband, children, parents, and all that. I don't think we can read that because I have it's about projecting it, and you taking the passages yourself will have helped. Look, I won't be on about not having a project anymore. I'm in edification, so I also have responsibility for that. I used to enjoying the love of family and friends. It can directly influence the quality of relationships with spouses, children, parents, siblings, because it is one thing that is direct. It is something that if you are willing to make it better, it will be better because it's directly within your control. It's not like the economy. It's not like debts. It's not like taxes. It's not like those external events that nobody can do about. It is difficult embarking on the journey of life without the help of those who really care about you. Are you focusing enough on them? You know, what legacy are you building? You know, that the book of, one of the passages I put there, I know this so much, so I keep saying, book of Proverbs 13:32, it says that a good man, saying that your responsibility and inheritance is not material wealth. You're just asking yourself, focusing on saying, what kind of children do I want to bring up? Who am I going to introduce to society? He said, your responsibility goes beyond your immediate children, even your grandchildren. What kind of family lineage do you want to keep up? Make it a point of duty to bring up responsible children. Teach your kids values, teach your kids virtues. Teach them to measure a man by the sign of not their ethnic background, not their social status. Teach them what is important. Are there relationships you've lost? Are there friendships you need to make? Are there things? Are there people you need to go back to and rekindle the relationship? The kind of friendship you have. Are there people you need to reconnect with? In your hand. It's in your hand to do that. You know? There are things that, when we listen to the social media, wrong values people project. Oh, haters can hate, anybody can do this. Let me tell you the truth, there are people you cannot replace. No man is an island, I agree. There are people that demand a lot in your life anymore. You die, but you lose a whole lot of things. Most times, anyway, and stubbornly because of your ego, your quality replace. Do you still have the shot? I've talked about yourself. I've talked about relationships. I purposely brought out the church because your relationship is also a relationship of brethren, but I want to just talk about this in a different way for a number of reasons. I'll read some of the passages I have here. Let's take a look of just some Bible passages where it's talking about relationship among Christians, what it will be like. The book of John 13 from 34 to 35 says, "A new commandment I give to you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. All men may know that you are my disciples if you love one another." Colossians 3, 12 to 13 says, "And therefore God speaks representatives, purified and beloved, put on the nature, which is merciful in action, kindly in heart, humble in mind. Accept life and be most patient and tolerant with each other, always ready to forgive." Psalm 133 verse 1 to 2 says, "Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Upon the heads that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, and went down to the skirt of his garment." So if those things they show on those books of Bible stories, if they are true, you see how long the beard of Aaron actually was. So you know the kind of ointment we are talking about. Philippians 3:20 says, "But our citizenship is in heaven, and we eagerly await the Savior from there, the Lord Jesus Christ." That Christians, our citizenship is in heaven. It's not the Jabode, it's not the Sialangwa. Okay, it's not the Hara. Let me call my own place, so we will not say that I'm beefing the Jabode people. He said, if you're a Christian, your citizenship is where? In heaven. Do you still have the love of the brethren and the love of the church? Do you still have that? Like I said, I've deliberately separated it from the other relationships you have. I don't know which kind of family you belong to, your blood family. When you have about 300 people or 400 people, I don't know how possible that is, right? But this is because this is a place where you have so many number of people caring about you, or at least mandated to care about you. So if you listen to these passages I read, then there are certain things that I can never discuss in the house of God. We cannot start organizing or relating along the tribal lines in the house of God. You know, we can never be found discussing tribal sentiments in the house of God. We will not know who is Igbo, who is Calabar, who is Yoruba, who is others in the house of God. If we know that what our citizens is what in heaven. And when we do that, we want to start separating the Igbo people from the Yoruba people and the rest. Sister Carolina just told me this morning. I was asking her of her Igbo name. I think she told me Chinedu, something like that. Sister Chinedu. Okay. Okay. See, the husband didn't say Yoruba, right? But some of them they say it's Igbo, right? Shoma will read to me. I don't know if it's Igbo or Yoruba. And then Osorobo, Edo, or Calabar, right? Sister Margaret Okon. The problem I have with Sister Margaret Okon is that over years she has now even started looking like a Calabar woman. You know? But I know she's an Igbo woman. So in this case, is she Igbo or is she Calabar? It's going to be a problem. Alright? But you know where the problem is? This is something that should really not mention among decent people, let alone Christians. It doesn't even need to be. It should be mentioned among decent people, let alone Christians. But these are the things that politicians are using to confuse all of us. Even the politicians themselves don't believe in. It's an abomination to discuss tribalism in the house of God. Like David said, this should not be told in Gath, right? He said, tell him what's in Gath and publish it not in the spirit of Escalon. Let the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, and let the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. People are saying, we look at you and say, in the church of Christ, it's an abomination. In 2015, those of you that remember, you know, while the Emperor of Lagos was trying to do his political responsibility, he said that the Igbo people that will not vote for Yoruba, that he's going to throw them into the ocean. Into the lagoon, not ocean. But you know the interesting thing? Then the son to the Emperor of Lagos was working with me, was my colleague in the office. The father made us step in today, maybe over the weekend. The next working day, we saw. I was started laughing at each other. He said, you know, just be my friends. When I throw you people into the lagoon, I will tell him not to throw you. That's the man that the father made the statement. friend, his name is Yomi. In 2012, I lived in Ghana for 1 year, you know. Before, at some point, in an apartment, that would be myself, there's my colleague Jojo T from Benue State. There's another of my friend Yomi. 3 of them are just the Nigerians working amongst other people, a project of more than 50 people. 3 of us are just Nigerians. We live like brothers in the same apartment, right? When our wives are not there, we cook the concoction rice and hopefully we didn't poison ourselves. We do all of this as what? As brothers. When this whole thing was going on, I got a forwarded message from Yomi. You know how you forward message to all your contacts. And he said, Igbo say that they developed Lagos. All the Amragas in Lagos are Igbo. All the days are Igbo. I'm like, okay. When Yomi was sending this, did he even remember that he has a brother that all of them lived for 1 year in Accra? That's exactly what some of us are doing. Igbo say it, Yoruba say it. And some of us even put in our status. And when they are talking about Yoruba as an Igbo person, you forget this Yoruba man here, get that Afolabi. You forget you forget those people, they will still see your status. I'm wondering, and I thought that this person is my brother. That's a shame. Do you still have God? Are you still connected to God? What is that in your hands? What you don't use, you lose. If you have God and you don't take anything to God, you don't relate to God, then you don't get the advantage of being what? Of being a child of God. God said in His word, you know, come to me all are labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Matthew 11:28. He calls us His friend and is available to listen if you are willing to speak. In John 15:12-15, He reads, my command is this, love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know the master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything that I learned from my Father I have made known unto you. The special privilege among other beautiful names, peculiar people are not only in the Bible. A Christian. When you know that no matter the madness and the confusion around you, don't forget that you have a Father who is in heaven. You cannot worry about like people who don't know God. There are many things we have survived because of God. How many years ago here we survived COVID? So why are we shouting that this happened? Tinubu did this, Obi did it, that people did this. There is nothing we cannot survive because we are what? We are children of God. There's that song in our hymn book that will say, what a friend we have in Jesus, right? All our sins and griefs to bear. But the part I like is, say, what a privilege to carry everything to God in prayers. And it goes ahead to say, what peace we often forfeit, and what needless pains we bear, all because we do not carry what? Everything to God in prayer. If you have God, are you using it? You know, I'm going to round up before this man here will remember my Igbo man. Okay, that's the truth. I'm sure you got that. So, let us conclude. What is that in thy hands? Are you using it? To what extent are you really living up to the potential as individual Christians? As parents, as committee members of a church, there's a whole lot we can. This is your welfare. Sometimes people should be dashing us money now. Just come for no reason. They say that what welfare is doing today is money sharing day, right? But the reality is that as committees and also that welfare can how to get out there and get jobs. I've seen churches where people will assemble the young people and teach them mathematics. That's a whole lot to have in our hands, which we can do as individual Christians. What are we doing to engender the unity of faith and the fellowship of the brethren? Our actions, are they making us stronger together? Are they separating us? I've said here one time, If you are not part of the solution, you are definitely part of the problem. If your utterances and your actions will make individual brethren to lose faith in the unity of faith, that is a problem. What is that in thy hands? Are you putting it to use optimally? Once again, let me remind you that you have the absolute freedom to respond on how you choose to respond to the events of life. You are solely responsible. You are the driving seat of your life. So it is you who can recognize the things you have in your mind. May the good Lord continue to bless all of us